What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Nick with Leverage Media. Welcome to another episode of Path to a Million podcast. I'm here with my main man, Dr. Alex Vidan. What's up, brother? We are here at Parker Seminar, and I feel like we have spent about 30 of the 70 hours together, like either drinking or eating dinner or something.
Sounds right.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's usual. We had a great night last night.
Awesome.
We went to the Logan alumni, and your mentor, Dr. 𝗱𝗏 is here, and you guys got to share some touching moments together.
So that was fantastic.
That was
a
good time.
Yeah, it was a great time.
So tell people that may not know who you are, where you practice, what you're up to, what you do, all that.
So I'm Dr. Alex Vidan, practice in St. Louis, Missouri. Our practice is one that we take care of a lot of families and corporate, and we take care of a lot of people with temporomandibular joint dysfunction, things like that.
Yeah.
But we really love getting out there into the community and just letting people know about chiropractic and what it is that we do and how it is that we can impact their lives and change their lives and getting them back to doing the things they need to do, want to do, and love to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you've got a big successful practice, graduated from Logan. What year did you graduate?
2004.
And did you associate after that, or did you go right into practice?
I went right into practice.
Yeah.
There was a lot to learn.
Yeah. Did
know?
you start from scratch, or did you buy one?
No, so I actually purchased a practice, and interesting story about that is that the practice that I purchased, my wife and I are both chiropractors, so we went in, we bought this practice together, and man, I tell you, it's a sad state, but the books were cooked, everything was, everything was a lie. Is basically what it comes down to. This is what it was supposed to be, and it was nothing like it was supposed to be at all. And so we learned a lot from that experience. We learned a whole lot from that experience. Yeah. And so we bought this sinking ship, turned everything around, completely changed everything, and turned it into a successful practice.
What would you say, because that's kind of an interesting little thing, what would you say to people in terms of due diligence, making sure that they don't buy something like that?
Yeah, really dig into it. We had people looking at these things. We had people checking to see what it actually looked like.
Yeah.
But I would get as many attorneys to get a look at it. I would get as many accountants to get a look at it. Those kind of things. This is 16 years ago, so that wasn't quite as common then. But now it's much more common, much more. It's the advice I would give.
Yeah. What was it that they were able to hide if other people were looking at it?
They literally had a whole separate set of books.
Oh man!
It was a flat out lie.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that's hard, right?
Is there even a way to how would you even protect against that? I don't know.
Yeah, so, now I don't know that.
Ask them. Do you have a second set of books?
Do you have a second set of books that Can I look at those and see what that looks like?
Right.
Yeah. In retrospect, we did not, but in retrospect, it could have been one of those things where we could have gotten a lawyer involved and done all that and those kind of things. We didn't do that. We didn't go that route, but it cost us a lot of money.
Sure.
And especially with it just being a flat-out lie.
Well, let's move on to the more positive things.
Yeah.
Right? So when you did take over, where were the collections at?
They were abysmal. It was so far in the tank, $5-7K a month.
Okay, so it was basically zero.
Basically starting.
So you're
over.
pretty much starting from scratch.
Yeah.
You just have a building that has some rooms, right?
Yeah.
A few patients trickling in.
Yes.
So what was it that you guys started doing right away? Because you both were in practice at that point.
Yeah.
Right. And what was it that you guys started right away to start to accelerate to that from that 0 to 250 mark?
Yeah. So the thing that we did on that front end stage, we had a lot more time than we did money.
Yeah.
And so we used our time. We got out there, we beat the streets. Literally, we went to every business, everywhere that we could, knocked on doors, met people, shook hands, did all that kind of stuff. I was at, and my wife was at every event that we could be at where we could meet people and connect with people, and just realizing the more that we can get our name out, the better it's going to be. And because, like I said, we had more time than money, we were using what we had.
Yeah.
And so as things progressed, we changed. And so one of the things that we did was, and I suggest for people to do all the time, is getting on boards, volunteer on a board. So I grew up as a Y kid, going to the YMCA and all that stuff during the summers. So I had a heart and affinity for that. So I went to them and I was like, hey, do you have a board that I could sit on and see how I could help and volunteer time? And they were like, yeah, we have a board that helps with strategic planning and all those things. Well, what I didn't realize is that other companies are looking for people in their company. So Fortune 500 companies and all that kind of stuff, and smaller companies, they're looking to have their employees be part of those too, because it makes them stand out.
Yeah.
And since it makes them stand out, then they are able to accelerate further in their job title, right?
Sure.
And in their career. So I met a lot of great contacts there, Salvation Army, sat on the board with them. I did things with all kinds of different organizations where I could just give time, but it was something that meant something to me.
Yeah.
So even if I was giving time, it's like, well, it's worth it because I like this mission.
And that's a different angle than a BNI group.
Yes.
It's like a whole different relationship.
Totally.
My girlfriend sits on the board of the 𝗿𝗂𝗧 Society for the Ronald McDonald House.
Yeah.
And the people that she's friends with these people.
Yep.
It's like they get work done.
Yeah.
But they're friendly and they refer business back and forth and all that good stuff. So sitting on boards, one thing I want to that I really like respect about you, and maybe it's just because I'm bad about this and you're really good at it, but is like you're a really good connector. Like you're great at networking, making people feel heard, and so what are some? I'm sure it's kind of like a natural thing for you, but like, is there anything consciously that you think of when it comes to that? Like when you're meeting people and
I like people.
Oh, that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like people. I like to get to know people and find out, not for me, I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Just asking questions like, well, what do you do?
Yeah.
Oh, man, how does that help? Like, what does that do? And all those things. And so whenever because I'm naturally inquisitive about that, and I just like people, that I think that makes it easier to then be like, oh, do you know this guy over here? Because he could probably help you with that and those kind of things. And so you get to connect people within ways that brings value to them.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer of the fact that the more that I can help other people, the more it's going to come back, one way or the other.
For sure.
It might not be direct. It's going to be somewhere. I believe in putting out good, and you're going to get good back.
Yeah, I agree. We talked one time, I think, being in agreement.
Yeah.
That's that. And after we had that conversation, now when I see you talking, I'm like, he's in agreement a lot.
He's in agreement
like
a
every
lot.
time that I see him talk to someone. So you just spoke today on TIC TV, which is basically helping people get on the news.
Yes.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
But if you guys haven't heard Alex speak, either on TMJD or on getting on the news, I highly recommend you if you're at an event where he's going to be at. I just thought everybody.
Oh, thank you,
it really was like a great speech, high energy. Like people really loved it. Lots of opt-ins at the end of it, so that was always nice too.
It means a lot to me to have you say that. So thank you. It really does mean a lot to me. Thank you.
All right, so you're starting to connect. You're starting to get the practice busier.
Yep.
As you start to get to that $20,000 a month mark, what's that next stage going from $250 to $500 in a year in collections? What was kind of the big thing that started to push you over the edge there?
The thing that started to push me over the edge there is that I started to realize, man, I need to start figuring out a way to stand out from all the other chiropractors that are in my town. Because I'm in St. Louis, the school's there. There's a ton of chiropractors around. I'm not a good golfer, and I could hit like six offices with a driver from how close they are to me, And so it's one of those things where I needed to figure out a way to make me stand out in that sea of all those other people that were there. So for me, what I started doing was I started really digging into it and figuring out all right, the thing that I'm passionate about because of my personal experience was temporomandibular joint dysfunction.
Yeah.
I had a problem with my jaw and nobody could fix it. I figured out to reverse engineer what other oral care providers were doing, how we see things philosophically and how we see things as far as structure goes and everything else, and how I could fix my own jaw. Yeah. And so I started helping myself, and then I really went deep into that. I was like, okay, how can I stand out? Well, I'm going to do this. I didn't realize at the time that temporomandibular joint dysfunction, so TMJ complaints, is the second largest musculoskeletal disorder that there is. Yeah. Number one's low back pain. Number two is TMJ. Wow. And so because of that, I was like, well, man, this is a really niche market. It's one that I can go really deep on. And because of that, I started tapping into that. And that then started building relationships with oral care providers. And they started referring to me, seeing me as, well, you're the person that we send these patients to that have TMJ issues. Yeah. And so we started developing more relationships, started growing and growing and growing. And that was our thing, like niching down. Yeah. Which seems counterintuitive.
But trying to get into an MD's office is tough. They've got all types of layers, especially like as things start to consolidate. It's like even if you got in front of an MD, they don't really make the decision on where referrals go to, and it's very difficult to do. Yep. It's like getting in to do a lunch and learn at like a Fortune 500 company versus like the bank down the street.
Sure,
and,
much different.
And with dental providers, you go in there, you drop off a fruit basket, you say hello, you introduce yourself, you offer to buy them breakfast or lunch and talk more about it. they are like so grateful. They're so like happy to help.
Yeah.
They're looking for somebody that can help with these conditions because a lot of them don't treat it anyway.
Yes.
And so I sent my associates to the TMJD seminar, and then I went at the next one, and in between, just between when they went and when I went, we had created a whole system.
Yeah.
We had my marketing director was out meeting with oral care providers. And it was just like shooting fish in a barrel in terms of like getting those things set up, starting to build that relationship. Yeah. And now, I mean, we've only been doing it 6-9 months, something like that. Yeah. And it's already like a steady stream. And we should be doing more. It should be a lot more. Yeah. But it's still like 1 to 3 new patients a month are coming from these things that we did, 4 to 6 months ago.
Yeah. And if you can get that consistency down, like
right.
the ROI on it is huge.
Right. And there's a chiropractor. If you're worried about there being a chiropractor on every corner in your town, there's a dentist on every corner well.
For sure.
And they are just, I mean, if you had 5 of them sending you 1 new patient a month.
1 a month.
That changes people's offices,
Totally.
So that 250 to 500, it was really about you, and whether it's TMJD or migraines or like whatever it is you want to specialize in, you're saying like, become known for something, go deep, so that you can start focusing on who has those patients already, and also I'm assuming that you get lots of your patients that even like not TMJD patients, but they refer TMJD cases because it's so obvious that that's what you help with.
Yes, for sure, and because of that. Because you get known for something, it's very easy for people to refer to you then. Yeah. Like a lot of times when I'm talking to chiropractors, like, well, I can help with everything. Yeah. Like the problem with helping with everything, it doesn't mean that you can't still help with everything. Like we certainly help people with all kinds of stuff, right? But because of the fact that we have that thing that makes us stand out, instantly patients will go, well, I know that you help with this. So because you help with this, I know exactly where to refer them to. Yeah. If they think, well, you can help anybody with a spine, that makes them very hard to go, well, I don't know anybody with a spine that I can refer to you. Right. Right. As opposed to, well, anybody that's pregnant, we can help them. Oh, I know people that are pregnant. Exactly. Do you know anybody that suffers from headaches or this or that? Yeah, no, I know people like that. Yeah, those are my coworkers. She's always taken this, or he's always taken that medication or that stuff. He's always asking me if I have any extra whatever, right? Right. So those become like instant cues that you can use because you're going niche into it, as opposed to, I can help everybody with everything. You become known as the one that, well, I don't know where to refer to. Right. Right.
Right. So that really started to, like, I would say, how many TMJD cases do you think you get a month now between like referrals from providers and referrals from patients?
I would say we'll get anywhere between, and it depends on the month, right? So it'll fluctuate for sure, and then we can certainly, like, we look at it as we can turn it on, and then we can back off more. So the more we're out there marketing to more oral care providers, the more they're sending, the more that we're staying in communication with them, the more they send. We start to get like, oh man, like how are we going to handle all this? And we just have to come back a little bit, right? Because also time, effort, energy, all those things. So I mean, we'll fluctuate typically anywhere between 10 to 30, and we'll go in between those. Where we'll get that, and when we have that, it's just, okay, we can either just keep throttling forward or we can like back off a little.
And with those cases, because you're treating those people as full chiropractic cases, so whether they come in with TMJD or they come in with low back pain, they're still getting chiropractic care. Yes. It's like there's focus on the TMJ itself, but then they're also getting adjusted, because that's going to be a part of it as well.
That is a huge part of it, right? So for us, it's, look, the thing for us was, for me, always the heart of it was, the idea is to get more people underneath chiropractic care. And that was an avenue in order to do that. Yeah. Right? Just like if you said before, like if you focus on headaches, that's an avenue to get people underneath chiropractic care. Right. Pregnancy, that's an avenue to get people underneath chiropractic care, whatever it is.
Yeah. Because a lot of times I think when people think of like extremities or something that's outside of the spine, that it's, instead of it being a case that's worth this, it's more of like, well, it's just 6 visits or a $500 case, or it's like once we get them feeling better, then we release them. It's like, no, it's like the same reason why everyone should be under lifetime wellness family care if they come in with low back pain is the same reason why they should with TMJD.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
All right, so that's great. With that next stage, going from 500 to $1 million, what year did you buy the practice?
04.
And then when did you hit $1 million for the first time?
Any day now. We're just Oh man, I should really know that. It took us a couple years to get there. Like we were a slow process within that. I'm going to say, I would like to tell everybody it happened in 2 years or it happened in 3 years. That wasn't our path.
That's right.
You know, it took us a longer time to get there. We were slower learners. We had to learn more.
Gotcha.
You know? So I don't remember the exact year. I should.
That's right.
We've talked about this. I'm not the one that like has all those little details about that stuff.
You're
I'm
just
like
the pretty face, you know?
I'm just the one that's like, oh, that's where we want to go.
Yeah,
and
right.
You know, my wife and my team, they're like, oh, well, these are all the details for that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Right. Between your wife and Sherry, I feel like they take care of.
They keep me.
like just the bumpers as you're
they are
careening through life. You know,
that is it.
All right. So when you were going to that $1 million mark, what was the big thing that started to move the needle there?
I mean, the big thing for us that started moving the needle was certainly getting on the news.
Yeah.
You know, that amount of exposure, the amount of credibility that it brought to us, because it wasn't just like we wanted to do, you know, just what you do on social, right? Leverage.
Yeah.
We leveraged those opportunities to go, okay, well, I'm on the news, and now how can I use that to really maximize the opportunity? Mm-hmm. One of the things for us was, okay, look, we're going to maximize that opportunity, and now we're going to get into those Fortune 500 companies because we can separate ourselves and say, well, we're the chiropractor on the news, right? We leveraged that with working with OB-GYNs, right? And pediatrics. So where we could say, hey, look, we're working with the news, like we're on the news, and we're not paying to be on the news.
Right.
Big difference, right? So we weren't paying to be on the news. We're on the news as a health and wellness expert. And so because of that, it provided a lot of opportunities there. And so those things just started snowballing. So then we're speaking at Boeing, and we're speaking at Enterprise, and we're speaking at like all the Fortune 500 companies in St. Louis, but we also use the same thing for the smaller mom and pop shops, you know? It's just doors open up whenever that happens because it's just greater opportunity.
What caused you to what was the first news experience? What caused you to decide to do that?
The reason I knew from the moment that I knew I was going to be a chiropractor that I wanted to be on the news.
Yeah.
I mean, that first adjustment, the very first time. So I was pre-med before, and I'm in undergrad, I'm pre-med, I'm actually working in the teaching hospital, I'm like helping out on surgeries, I'm innovating people. They're teaching me just like I was, like if I was a pre-med student, you know? And so I'm helping out with everything. And I had these horrible migraines and headaches. Like that was my thing. I got this concussion, I had multiple concussions, sports and injuries and accidents and all that stuff. And man, I remember one of my buddies kept on me about going to see his chiropractor. And I was like, why would I go see a chiropractor? I don't have back pain or neck pain. He was like, no, for your headaches. My chiropractor says he can help with your headaches. And I was getting 5 to 6 headaches a week, and I would usually about 1 to 2 debilitating migraines a month. And that chiropractor, I finally was like, let me go see him, you know, after 5 years of suffering. I go in, I see that chiropractor, I get that first adjustment, boom. And I was like, I want to be a chiropractor, and I'm going to be on the news. Like it was like a thought flash. And I was just like, because I thought to myself, I'm in the field of health and wellness. That's what I thought, right? I'm pre-med, I'm in the field, I'm working at the hospital. How come I didn't know chiropractic could help with this stuff? So if I didn't know it, surely other people that's not their focus, that's not even their wheelhouse, they're not going to know. So I thought to myself, I've got to be on the news. So I just kept working hard and hustling to make that happen. It finally paid off. It was a long road and process.
So now over 250 times.
Yes,
correct.
Over 250 times on the news, and I've been on locally, I've been on nationally, internationally, all of that.
And so now with Tick TV, so like we're working together on that. You for a long time you were teaching people how to do it. And we started talking. I'm just like, Alex, like it's like. They're for sure, because you got, I mean, amazing testimonials of people who just followed the plan, because the plan works. The problem is I'm like, what's the biggest sticking point? Why aren't more people doing this? And it's like, they have to like actually send an email. I still tell them what to do. I tell them what to send, but they still have to send it. I'm like, oh, well, that's your problem. I was like, they're just not going to do it.
They don't want to do this.
They get busy, or like some people just don't like rejection, or like whatever it is. And so we've been working the last 6 months, year or so on like creating that done for you side of it. And I just think that it's because the information is golden. The information is exactly what you need, and it's like you've gone through all the, it's just hitting the fast forward button on like, this is exactly what to do, instead of stumbling your way through and potentially like, like ruining the chance of being asked back, because there's really only a couple of stations. Like if you're like in a town of 100,000 like mine, there's only one station that's actually in the town. There's another one that's in another hour away, but they really tend to focus on that city's stuff. It just broadcasts into ours. But unless you're in a big metropolitan area, you may only have like one or two chances to get on the local news. So what are some things that people should focus on when they're thinking about trying to reach out? They're like, yeah, I agree. Like we should be spreading the message of chiropractic more.
I mean, if they're thinking about like really making it happen, of course I'm going to say like contact us, that we'll make it happen. Right. We'll get you on the news. We'll check it all out. We'll see what the opportunities that are there. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's the goal is to get a solid chiropractor sharing the message about chiropractic on every single news station across the U.S. Yeah. That then changes the question, right? Yeah. It changes the question from people saying, you go see a chiropractor, to what chiropractor do you see? Yeah. Right? And if that becomes just the norm across the board, then what ends up happening then is that people then start going, yeah, this chiropractic, I mean, then we start to hit critical mass. Yeah. The more that we can educate them and just kind of get that message out, the better it's going to be. Yeah.
So you had like an acronym, I don't know if it's acronym, but I can't remember. But the TIC TV is like TIC and then TV. Yeah, walk people through that. What is it that is important for?
Yeah, so that's whenever we're talking about like a pitch. Yeah. And the pitch is your story idea, like what it is that you want to be on the news for. So yeah, we use TIC TV. So the TIC is the T is the timely. It's got to be timely. So right now as we sit here, the Super Bowl was last week, right? Yep. Last week. Mm-hmm. And so Super Bowl was last week. It's not timely to talk about football anymore. Mm-hmm. Like that, we're done with that. Right. So whatever it is, it has to be timely in that space. Yeah. It needs to be intriguing. You've got to make sure that whatever it is that you're going to be sending them is going to be something that they're looking at and going, ooh, that seems like that could be good. Yeah. That could be juicy. Not juicy to us as a chiropractor. Right. Juicy and intriguing to them as the people on the news station or their viewers. Right. Right. That's what we're looking at. And then we want to make sure that it catches their eye. Like when you send that email, you send that pitch, you send those things, it's got to be something that actually catches their eye to where they're going, I need to open this. I need to find out more here. And then the TV part, right? So that's the TIC. The TV part is you're going to take it from national to local news. Mm-hmm. So the example I gave today was we took the national epidemic of opioids, the opioid crisis and opioid epidemic, and brought it into the local market and said, this is how this national problem is now a problem here in St. Louis and how it's relevant to us. Right. And then I took that a step further and made it relevant to, this is why you want to see a chiropractor. To us as chiropractors, it makes sense. To the people like general America, they don't understand that the Yale study that's out there that says if you go see a chiropractor first, you're 49% less likely to be prescribed an opioid. Yeah. And you get the results that you want. Right. Holy cow. Right? Like that makes a huge difference. So when we can tie those things in together, it makes it where it's really, really something that becomes powerful. Yeah. So so I'm in Chicago, and the first confirmed case, I think in the U.S. With the coronavirus was in Chicago. It's like if you would have gotten a pitch to them that next day on like bringing it down to a local level, because it was Chicago centric news. You bring that down and you give them what did you say in the it needs to be counterintuitive. Yeah. Like why is a chiropractor talking about about the coronavirus, right? And it's just like you catch those moments and you're going to be so much more likely to get something open than just like, it's spring, your allergies are bad, Right. So it's if you Let's talk back pain.
That's right. If you can catch that thing in that's actually in the national news, you're going to have a greater success. Obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
So and when you said it earlier about like we get you on the news and not paid, like every news station has sponsorships that you can just buy your way on.
Of course.
Or like a PR company knows that they can like take a part of what you're paying them and pay the news station and get you on. But what we're talking about is earning our way onto the news, and that's the way that it's gonna frame it in a way that's actually gonna help chiropractic as a whole instead of just like a pitch for your practice.
Right. And the idea is not to buy your way on. Right. Because that gets to be really expensive. Yeah. And so the idea is to earn that. Yeah. And whenever you do that, then all of a sudden you follow the process, you do what we have laid out, right? It works. Yeah. And if you're on the news and you follow exactly what we have there for that, then that turns into now they want you back. Right. Like the question doesn't go, they don't at the end of your segment go, hey, thanks for being here. Uh-huh. They go, do you have anything else?
Right.
Like, what else can you talk about?
Yeah.
That was excellent. What else can you share?
And that's the only way you're going to get on 250 times.
Yes.
Not by buying your way on.
No.
And so I think, the biggest part that when I look at the course, the thing or the service, I think that that's the most valuable is that you're so good at writing the pitches. Like if you just told them, okay, tick TV, follow this, this process, they still have to be thoughtful and like keeping an eye on it.
Right.
And so when you there's a big difference between knowing how to doing everything, and then having like the right angle at the right time,
right.
and just having like a pitch that you wrote yourself that kind of follows along, but you don't really have that skill.
Right.
And so everybody that's a client gets the pitches, and then they get customized to the office.
Yeah.
But man, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
To if you're gonna do this, that you have to be able to get the producer to say, yeah, that sounds interesting to me.
For sure.
And
that's it, right? And thank you for saying that, because that really does mean a lot to me, because it is a skill, and it's one that I've developed over time, and now helping chiropractors get on the news hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Like, we know what works in a big market and a small market,
right.
and we know how those things all come together to make it to where they get the chiropractor gets the most bang for their buck. Right?
And you got to know where to send it too.
Oh,
like that was one of the things we were talking about with the email black hole.
Exactly.
The guy in the front room was just like, no, you need to do it. You're like, trust me.
Don't send to the black hole.
Don't send it to the black hole. That what we were talking about is like the email address that's on the website,
on the page.
No one's looking at that.
No one is.
So you have to know like how to get it into the reporters' inboxes. Right. So, all right. So now that you're over 1 million. What are the things that you're focused on in practice? Where's your attention at? What are some struggles maybe that you're working through right now? Like, what's the next stage?
Our biggest thing right now is, the things that we're working on, obviously consistently making sure that we're training the team, making sure that we have all those things, because you've got to, we talk baseball, we talk sports, we talk things like that. There's no pro out there that's not going to batting practice.
Right.
They're still taking ground balls.
Yeah.
They're doing all that. And so it's making sure that we are staying consistent with that, because we are busy.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to go, well, these are the things that got us here. We don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And that's where you get this kind of wave, this up and down and up and down. And we don't want that. We want it consistent and then keep going up, right? And so that's one of the things. We're staying consistent with that. We're making sure that and we've been doing that for a long time, but our major focus is there. The other thing is that continuing to make sure that we're constantly staying out there in front of our community and staying in front of, our strategic contacts and the people that we have, the Fortune 500 companies, the small companies, all of that, that we're just always staying in front of them. The other thing that we're really making sure to do is that because I am busy, right, and we do have associate, right, and we have that, and we have care that's being provided from others, we need to make sure that there's transfer of power with those things too.
Right.
That they just don't see me and go, well, that's who I want to see.
Right.
They need to see me and go, oh, because they're there with him, then they must be great too.
Yeah.
And so there's things we do to instill that into our patient base too, so they understand, like, that's my chiropractor. That's who I see. Yeah. So those are the things that we're really constantly focusing on, making sure that we're doing those things. Those are the things where I feel like that's where we win.
What's been the do you use any kind of systems for training, or is it just like, these are our procedures, let's go over them every week? Or do you use any books that you like on that, or any resources that you utilize?
I wish that I could recommend like this book or this resource for that. Really for us, it's these are the core things that we want to make sure that we have dialed in every single time. Yeah. And we've got solid every single time. Yeah. And it's ground balls. It's base hits. Yeah. We're making sure that we're staying focused on that. And so it's everything from, how do you open the door? Or whenever they open the door, how do you greet them? Yeah. When you answer the phone, what's that look like? When somebody asks this particular question, how are we going to answer that? It doesn't mean that everything has to be scripted out every single, if they say it like this, now you got to say that. No. Yeah. It's just, but you need to have that backbone, that foundation to then build off of. Yeah. And that's what we do.
And we mentioned Sherry earlier, and she's your office manager and just awesome. Kind of like right hand. Yeah. How long has she been with you?
Sherry has been with me now 13 years.
13. And I can't remember who
She was a patient first.
Okay.
So she was a
Those
patient.
are always the best ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was a patient for 2.5 years, and then she came in.
Got it.
I take that back, 12 years.
Got it. So, I have an office manager, same thing, where, just things get handled, things get taken care of. With the, what are some tips in terms of like cultivating that person, because she's so good.
Yeah.
Like, she's so on top of stuff.
Yeah.
And I just think that a lot of offices that are either clients or that I just know, it's like they always have kind of the low level, entry level, not low level, but entry level like CAs that are, always in the practice, and they last for 6 months to 5 years or whatever.
That's frustrating.
But how do you build up that right hand? Like, how's that been for you?
I would say that one thing that we are great at is finding people that are highly undervalued and underappreciated in their current job. They have a whole lot more to give, but for some reason they're undervalued and underappreciated. And then they see our culture. Like, our culture in the office is we actually care.
Yeah.
And so the more that we can show them that we actually care, like we mean it, then the more that they look at it and they go, this is the place I want to be.
Yeah.
Like, we get people that come and try to work for us all the time, even when we're not putting anything out there. They're like, this is where I want to be. Like, this is the culture that I want to have. This is the place. So that's one thing. The other thing that I would say is that because we...
Real quick on that, do you actively look for those people, or is it more of just like you make sure that you cultivate that culture in the practice, and it attracts those people that maybe are
those kind of people.
So there's no like strategy for going out and trying to find those people.
It's not like we go, let's find some undervalued, underappreciated
I just didn't know.
You're
like that's what we're great at. I was like, oh, maybe there's a secret to that.
I wish I could say that's what it was, but really what I found is that, and I would say that's the case across the board for our team.
Yeah.
I mean, you've met a bunch of them, you've seen them and everything like that, and they really are. I mean, we're truly blessed to have such fantastic people. But I actually care about them.
Yeah.
My wife, she cares about them. Like we show them that, and so that can mean everything from just stopping for a minute and seeing like, hey, are you feeling okay? Is everything okay? And actually caring to hey, we had a great week. Everybody's been hustling and working hard. I'm buying everybody lunch, and we're going to have it brought in. Or, hey, you know what? Everybody's been doing great and really working hard and everything. My wife is going to take the rest of the team, she's going to take them all out, and they're going to go do a spa day, or they're going to do, it's those things, and we just take care of them. And so because of that, where it's not just those things, it's all the other little things in between.
Right.
And they really feel like, man, I'm part of this team because they are.
Yeah.
I could not do what I do without my amazing team.
There's no way, man.
You're
everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you travel a lot.
I do.
You're not always in the practice, so it's like you have to have that that consistency and that congruency.
Yes.
So I didn't mean to cut you off. You were going to say a second thing. I don't know if you remember what you were going to say.
Now I got to remember what the second thing is.
You were talking about just like training and culture, and then I threw it off.
It's okay.
Because you'd said that you. I was asking about Sherry, about building up that right-hand person.
Yeah. Spot on. Yeah. So the other thing that we end up doing is if they come to me and they say, look, this thing is really difficult, whatever this thing is, this thing that we're doing is really difficult, I would like to do this to make this easier. Can we buy this? Can we do this? Can we get this tech? Can we get this thing, right? Or can we get whatever that is? I want to support them in those things. Now, obviously, it has to be cost effective and it has to be that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I really, really, really make sure that I don't micromanage. Like, that's not my thing. We talked before. You're like, so when did you hit $1 million? I'm like, before.
Ask Sherry.
Yeah. You ask Sherry that. I don't know. You can ask my wife too. Both of them can tell you those things.
Right.
That's not how my brain works, right? But because I don't micromanage, but because I support them, that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
So when I was early in practice, it was micromanage everything. It was, I'm listening to you make those phone calls. I'm listening to you how you answer the phone call. Because if you don't do it the way I do, then you're out. And this is, and I don't mean it like you're fired. I mean it like you can't do that now. And then the next thing that ends up happening, well, you can't do that. Plus you aren't doing this the way that I say. This isn't what I want you to do, and these things. So what ends up happening is now you become the one that does everything, which now doesn't allow you to do anything, really, right?
Yep.
And so you've got to be able to give them the training, number one, because a lot of docs, whenever we talk to them, I'll talk to them and they're like, well, yeah, I trained them. I'm like, how many times? They're like, I mean, we did a training once and then we talked about it again. I'm like, that's not enough.
Yeah.
You don't just all of a sudden say, we're stopping training on that.
Yeah.
Well, they should know. No, they shouldn't.
Yeah.
This isn't their baby.
Yeah.
It's your baby.
Right.
Right.
And
so the training, and then give them what you can in order to support that on the back end,
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Yeah.
And if it's, a different phone system, okay, it's a different phone system. If it's new computers that they need, because this one's just so slow, and so I can't do the things I need with the patients, like, it seems like basic stuff, but it's other things that show that you support and care too. And that doesn't always have to be like big cost things. It can be literally like, I just need a small little printer right up here so I don't have to go all the way to the back, you know? Like, that's a simple thing.
I stress to people, I'm like, you are the one that does this thing every day, whether it's with Leverage or with my office. You do this thing every day. Just tell me. I want you to bring me ideas.
Right.
I mean, some of your ideas are terrible. Like, that is true. Some are bad. I'm going to say no.
He's so straight. But that's not an agreement.
But I'm terrible about being in agreement. But some are great.
Yes.
And I would have never thought about it because I don't sit and do it every day. The stuff that I do every day, I am constantly trying to figure out, how do I make this better? How do I make it more efficient? And I want team members that are going to do the exact same thing with theirs. And it's like, I'm not going to, I mean, I bought I think it was like a $7,000 computer because our video editor was like, it's taking me this long to like upload videos to YouTube. If we had this computer that I've done a bunch of research on, he spent 2 or 3 hours like finding the right one. Here are the specs we need. And I'm like, do we really, really have to have that? And he's just like, yeah, we got to have that. And I'm like, okay, like it was going to cut down. It was going to cut his time for like doing something with rendering of a video by like 75%.
That's enough.
And I'm like, that time is the only thing that matters. And especially with Leverage, we have to have things done in an efficient way to be able to process through all the different things that we do. And I'm like, I don't want to spend $7,000 on a computer, but I also don't want to waste a bunch of time every single day. And he does it every day, and he thinks it's worth it, and I trust him. So let's buy that.
Though, right?
Yeah, I loved it. Because it made his whole life easier. Because everything was faster. Because I mean, if you're cutting video time down that much, it makes everything opens super.
Guess what? The great thing about that is he's happier.
Right.
And he's like, oh, good. I got this new toy. And I get to use this. This is going to be great. I'm going to use this. And all this stuff I can do now. Oh, my gosh.
Exactly.
Like, wait till you see how productive I am now, right? Like,
my best employees throughout my entire career have always been the problem solvers. It's always been the ones that you don't have to train them on it. So if you can like find those people in interview processes, if that's the kind of person that they are, once they get into that position, they're just like, how do we make this better? It like aggravates them that there's like some inefficiency, as opposed to somebody who just doesn't give a shit and they're just like, I like the inefficiency because it just allows me to waste time.
Because I can waste so much more time.
That's right. That's right. Just thinking of content, you're so good at the content side of things, of making videos, demonstrating things. Let's talk about that on like the video side. What are some things that you think about when you're thinking about creating content?
I always want to make whenever I'm doing content for social, I want it to be highly visual, as in, and people are like, well, it's a video, so it's visual. No, I want it to be like, what can I use to demonstrate and show them? I don't want to just tell, I want to show. And if I can show them what it is in a way that is going to connect with different markets and different audiences, they're going to look at that and go, that speaks to me. Or the person on the other side of that video that's seeing it is going to look at it and go, why's he got that? Why does he have a fuse box there? What's that about? And so it sparks interest, and it can't just be always like, oh, this is the spine and this is what we're right. It's got to be all kinds of different things. So I try to keep on using different visuals and different props to make it to where it's interesting and intriguing and makes them like draw in. And so then it becomes more of an attraction thing rather than I'm pushing the information on them.
Well, and that, we call them pattern interrupts, where somebody's scrolling through and that, why is he holding a fuse? Why is a chiropractor holding a fuse box?
What's that about?
Is at least interesting to get them to at least listen to 2 seconds. And, I think that a lot of the videos that I see, out there on the internet, and we try to get, like with clients, I'm just like, look at Alex, like, look what he's doing. Just like, that is a good example. But the, what they do when they're doing explanation videos, when they're going over like metaphors or analogies, that's where you see a lot of like, hostage videos where they're just like standing in front of a wall with like a shadow behind them, and they're just like talking straight to camera. It's just that talking head, and I'm like,
I know exactly what you mean. The hostage video.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to laugh that much, but I know exactly what you're saying.
But those are the perfect. When you're showing it like what you do, it's easy to demonstrate because you're just like, here's an adjustment,
Right.
here's what it looks like, here's why we're doing that. But when you're explaining something, it helps to have those props.
For sure.
And I think that's a really important thing that you do that make yours more interesting.
And I just as like one tip and a bit of advice for people listening and watching in that is that make it to where the more everyday things that you can make it, the better it is.
Yeah.
Because people can see that and they're like, how are you going to relate that to chiropractic?
Right.
Like, how is that going to be related to my health?
Exactly.
And so the more random that you can really bring it full circle, it makes it more interesting and intriguing because they're like, how does that have to do, right? So,
it's that counterintuitive thing.
Counterintuitive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So all the same stuff that I think make you really good on the news hits or whatever they're called is what it will work on social.
Yeah.
And it's
a
lot of times it's like the same length of time. Those spots are 3 to 5 minutes.
Yep.
So that's a perfect amount of time to be able to do on a social video.
People think in their minds like it needs to be a 20-minute, half-hour long thing. I'm like, they don't want that.
Right.
They want to have it to where there are places for that. Like this. This is the place for longer form, right?
Yep.
And there's places where, okay, I want to go there and I want to get like the snippet of it and find out like how much more do I want to dive into this to find out more. How does this relate to me and make it to where it's interesting to me, so where I want to know more.
Yeah.
But give me the short version first, and then I'll want to find out more.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to ask you about, because you're a leverage client, and I don't always get to interview all like clients. So you had gone through a lot of agencies before, and you did a lot of the new patient offer, like Facebook ad.
Yeah.
And I just want what has been the difference, and not so much like leverage, but like what's been the difference with adding in content on a consistent basis alongside of the lead generation versus just having the lead generation?
Well, yeah, that's huge. I mean, the difference is that it's what, you and I are both Gary Vee fans.
Of course.
Right? And huge Gary Vee fans. And so whenever I think about that like give, right? That's what this comes down to. It's like the more that I can give and the more that I can educate and the more that I can show it in a place that actually adds value to their life and brings that to their forefront, the more that they're going to be like, all right, that's something that helped me. And when the time comes and I finally feel like I'm ready for a chiropractor or I understand, like I said, for me, it took me 5 years of my buddy being like, you need to go see my chiropractor.
Right.
He had the answer for me. For 5 years, he was telling me. So when people are like, I just keep putting it out, I'm like, keep going.
Right.
Just keep putting it out.
Yeah.
Because that's where eventually somebody's going to, it snowballs, right? It's like little, and then it just starts to grow.
Right.
And that can grow exponentially because you use leverage, right? And so it just grows so much faster, or it can grow really slow.
Yeah.
And I would rather go fast.
Yeah. But even if it grows slowly, it's better than doing nothing.
Exactly.
Because nothing is not going to grow at all.
It's never going to happen. Right.
And I there's just not enough focus on not only just creating the content, but then having a strategy of how to get it seen by more people. Because it's the same idea. Well, you didn't mention it in this, but you mentioned it in your talk today, of when you're on the news in St. Louis, you can't serve everybody.
No.
So you get calls from chiropractors or texts from chiropractors that are like, hey, I had a new patient come in because they saw you on the news.
Right.
On social, if somebody shares your video, when somebody shares it, pretty much their whole friend list will have a chance of seeing that share. If somebody in Phoenix, Arizona sees your video in St. Louis, it might get them to call a chiropractor in Phoenix. And I think it has to be seen as more of like, we need to all be doing this for the profession versus just like, am I going to get a new patient off of this video tomorrow? Because if I don't, then I'm not doing it.
Right.
And I think if we all did that, there'd be so much cross-pollination. A lot of these YouTube videos that get like 10 million views, there's a guy in LA that's a Gonstead doctor that I've spoken to multiple Gonstead doctors that say like, I get 1 to 3 new patients a month from that guy's YouTube videos because he has a nationwide, worldwide audience.
Oh, yeah.
But, somebody in Denver isn't going to fly to LA or probably not. And so they find somebody. They literally look up Gonstead chiropractor, whatever their name of their city, because that guy talks about being a 𝗵𝗂 chiropractor.
Right.
So he's forcing people to go and search for the kind of practice or the kind of technique that he does, so that they can get those same results.
Right.
You know, and that's I think
what
that's
it's about.
Because if all of us did that,
everybody wins.
Everybody wins.
Everybody wins.
Yeah.
And that's really what all of this should come down to. It's like it's going to come back around.
Yeah.
Right? No matter what. You put good out, it's going to come back.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it comes back tomorrow.
Sure.
It means it comes back, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so the more that you can have that, where you're putting those things out there that are going to help, it's going to come back every single time. I'm a firm believer of that.
Yeah. And then having had dinner with Dr. Filson last night, we were comparing hardware on the ring. So like show everybody the Cardinal Championship ring.
Yeah.
So if you want to work with athletes, if you want to get into professional sports, what's been some of the tips and advice that you've given to people on that?
People that are the thing that people have to realize is that there's so many chiropractors that want to work with those teams, and there's only so many teams, right? I'm going to say first and foremost that I'm a big proponent of not trying to come in and because you see it happen all the time, where people try to come in and they're like, well, that guy, he's not nearly of a good, or she's not nearly as good of a chiropractor as me. Mm-hmm. Team, you should have me come in because I know how to fix that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. You're just going to hurt yourself, and basically you're just hurting the profession too, right? So don't badmouth somebody else in order to have your own gain. That's just. I say that, and a lot of people are listening. They're like, "Yeah, why would you ever do that?" Other people listen. They're like, "Well, I do that." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because they're not as good as me. I'm like, "Yeah, but there's a right way and a wrong way to do this, right?" And so that's number one. The other thing is that realizing who is it that you really need to talk to over there? Like, who is it that you need to connect with? Who is it that you need to see about? And how can you help them? People try to go into it and try to say, okay, how is it that you can help me by making me your chiropractor for the team so that I get all the recognition and notoriety?
Right.
It's like, well, what are you going to do to actually really help them? Like, how's this going to work?
Yeah.
And so it's got to be a value. There's got to be a value exchange. There's got to be something that's there too. Because if you are great and you really can help people and you really do know how to communicate and everything else, it's going to make an impact. And we want more chiropractors out there that are doing that and making an impact. I certainly know chiropractors that I don't know how they got to be the chiropractor for that college or that thing, where I'm like, you're just another massage therapist or physical therapist or anything like that. There's nothing that makes you stand out.
Yeah.
I'm not against those things. Yeah. But when you're on a team, they've already got a massage therapist and a physical therapist and all that, for the most part, not always.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be the jack of all trades. But in most teams, at this level now, even at high schools around us, in St. Louis, they've got all that other stuff.
Gotcha.
So you've got to be the one that's great at that. I'm going to be great at adjusting people. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with. So one of the things I always say to do is make your conversations inclusive.
Got it.
If you can make your conversation inclusive with the athletic trainer or with the PT or with the massage therapist that's there as part of the team that's going to help, that's going to help open up the dialogue.
Yeah.
And so the way that I usually recommend that is, can I give a quick example of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So
the thing that I would say is that if you found something on an athlete and you're working with them, you're working with this athlete, then you're going to want to connect with so let's say that you're the head athletic trainer there on the team.
Yeah.
I'm checking an athlete, I find this going on, and I'll say, hey, you know what, Nick, I found this that's going on here in his cervical spine and his lumbar spine. Would you mind, have you taken a look at his piriformis, or have you taken a look at his glute med, or at, whatever it is, right?
Sure.
Have you taken a look at that? Because I'm seeing this, and I would like for you to get your set of eyes on it, because I know that's your focus.
Yeah.
Like, that changes it from, hey, man, I found all this, I just went ahead and fixed it. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, then all of a sudden, hey, man, you're encroaching on my turf.
Right.
Right? I do that.
Yeah, right.
You don't do that.
Right.
Yeah,
that makes sense. If that's good advice for when you do get in there.
Yeah.
What would you say, like, somebody's like, listen, I want to work with teams, and maybe not everywhere's got like professional sports team.
Yeah.
But I would imagine, like, if you want to work with a professional sports team, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So is like local schools, high school teams, that type, and then like build up to, or is it really just like serendipitous? I mean, like yours was kind of serendipitous.
Mine certainly
but
was, and I tell people that all the time. I'm like, mine was serendipitous because of the fact that, yes, my mentor was the chiropractor, but I like to tell people, like, I wasn't his only mentee.
Right, that's true. That's true. That is true.
Like, he has
he teaches hundreds of people every year.
You know, and he's more than willing to talk to everyone about it. It's not like it wasn't like that. The place that we really got close was the fact that he kept seeing me on the news, kept seeing me out in the community. He kept seeing those things and seeing us making the impact. And because he saw that all the time, he was like, you know what? I would like for you to come and work with us, with the Cardinals, and see about helping these guys and getting them adjusted. But because I was out there all the time, right? Yeah. It's not like it was just like, oh, I met him in school, and then we became besties, and then that was it.
And
it's
you were hiding in your office.
And I was, exactly. And I was hiding in my office.
And it doesn't matter whether the person who sees the news piece or the person who sees the social media video, doesn't matter whether it's, Sarah, the mom, sitting at home, or not that I didn't mean to use your wife's name like she's just sitting at home. Let's say Susan, the wife, sitting at home.
Definitely doing a whole lot more than sitting at home. I know you know that.
I use Sarah a lot sometimes as my random woman's avatar. Name. So Susan, the wife or woman, is sitting at home watching about migraines, and it influences her. Or it's the general manager of the Cardinals who watches it and just be like, "That guy seems like he knows what he's talking about." Yeah. And so you never putting your expertise out there, especially if you're into sports and you're talking about athletes, that can hit the right person at the right time. You're one conversation, one impression away from them just reaching out and just being like, you seem like you know what you're talking about.
And you never know when it's I didn't do, and I want to make sure that everybody hearing this and seeing this and listening to this understands, I never did the things. I thought it would be super cool. This would be amazing if I worked with the Cardinals.
Right.
But it wasn't like I went out there going, all right, who can I manipulate in order to make this happen?
That's right.
It was never like that. Right. It was always like, I'm just doing the right things on the back end.
Yeah.
And then you're right. It was like everything aligned, right? And everything came together. So the other thing that worked for me there too is that whenever they threw my name in the ring, and I was the only name to throw in there, they were like, of the 5 people, 4 out of the 5 people knew who I was. Yeah. They knew who I was. A couple of them were like, he's that guy on the news, right? Mm-hmm. A couple other people were like, oh yeah, I've met him at this event and that event. And yeah, he seems like
he's on that board.
He's on that board. He's on those things. So all those things started to come together and play out where it all aligned perfectly, right? Yeah. And so I truly am grateful for that. I feel totally blessed for those opportunities. Yeah. And I look at it as, if you do the right thing, you do good, it will come back. You just don't know when or where.
Right.
Yeah. And I can totally relate to people that are like, I'm doing the right thing, man. I'm waiting. When's it going to happen? Yeah. It's like, I don't know. Keep doing it. Right. It's going to happen. Though.
Right.
Keep charging. Keep
so going. That's a good dovetail into Tick TV.
Yeah.
We're starting to take applications for the strategy calls because we got to see, the vision is to get a chiropractor in every area, and have on every channel, because some if you're on a channel if you're on Fox, somebody else should probably be on ABC, because the people that watch Fox maybe don't watch ABC.
Exactly.
So to have a chiropractor in every market, what is the best way to get a great offer today to find out more?
If they want to come in and they want to find out more about that, let's jump on. Let's number one, let's give them some stuff that they can use and figure out all right, how does this work? So if they go to getmeonlocalnews.com.
Gotcha.
I got my cheat sheet right here just to make sure I don't say it wrong. So getmeonlocalnews.com, right? And so, if they go there, they can find information there. They can find out more about it. We'll give them some stuff, right? Yeah. So we'll give them some value, things
like that. There's 2 training webinars
we've got
on there.
Training webinars that are there that they'll get that talks about these are the things that their news stations are looking for in order to make you the cultural authority and position you that way so that you can make all those other things happen.
Right.
And then we'll talk about, this is what you want to do as far as getting comfortable on live TV.
Right.
Because it's a different animal, right? And so we want to make sure that they understand those things, and then we can also jump on a strategy call so we can talk about all right, what's this really look like for you? Is this going to be a good fit? There are certainly docs that I talk to, and I'm like, hey man, I checked your area, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at these things, and based on what you're telling me, this probably isn't going to be a good fit.
Yeah.
And not because of anything, there's times where it's certainly never anything financial. It's just, look, I really don't feel like you're going to gain the most from this, because maybe the station is an hour and a half from you. Are you sure you want to drive an hour and a half and then another hour and a half back? Some docs are like, no, I want to do that. I still want to do it. It means something to me to do that. I'm like, okay. So any of those things we'll talk about first.
Yeah.
to just make sure of any of that stuff before somebody commits to anything.
Got it. And then in terms of the TMJD seminars, what's the best place to find out information about that?
Best place to find information about the TMJD seminars is drtmjd.com. So drtmjd.com. They can go there.
And that, I could not recommend that enough. It's such a great niche. Like you said, it's the second biggest musculoskeletal condition out there, and I think you do such a great job of not only teaching them exactly what they need to do clinically, but also like how to turn that into new business.
Yes.
We paid for the seminar for my associates to go to within a week because we got one breakfast set up really quickly, and they sent somebody over later that week. So it was awesome.
Give that all to our docs that come. It's it's one thing to know the actual technique, what to do.
Right.
It's another thing to know, all right, this is how you actually market that.
Yeah.
And you can do it right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Boom, starting right away.
Awesome.
That's what we love.
Anything else? You think we covered a whole lot of different things today?
A whole lot of different things. No.
Anything else you want to add to this?
Man, I tell you, I would say that the biggest thing for me is I love our profession. I love what we get to do. I love how we get to impact so many lives. And I know in my heart, because I hear it all the time, that right now there's people out there that are praying for you. They're praying for us as chiropractors. They just don't even know that we exist. Yeah. And I was in that boat with my headaches and the migraines and all that stuff. I was just I just need answers. No one can help me.
Right.
And I feel like the more that we can get that message out there to more people, the mom that's suffering from the headaches that can't play with her kids, that gets fixed now because of what you're doing. That dad that's I can't provide for my family because of this low back issue and everything else. He's looking for you. That mom that's up all night with the baby with the tubes in the ears and the antibiotics and all that stuff, they're looking for you to help. Yeah. And so we've got to do our job to get that message out there to more and more people. Yeah. And so that's why I'm so passionate about doing these things and niching down with the TMJD stuff, being on the news, all those things. I love what we do, and I want to see more of us succeed.
Yeah, I always say that if everybody promoted their own practice the way 𝗵𝗔 𝗠𝗔 promoted chiropractic and the way he would use social media or he would use the news today, that we would be a very different profession. I think we would be the number one healthcare delivery system in the world. Yep. And I definitely think that you're doing your part, man. I appreciate everything you do for the profession.
That means a lot to me. Thank you very much.
And I love working with you as well.
I do too.
Yeah. All right, guys. If you want to find out more about Tick TV, go to getmeonlocalnews.com. I didn't even need my note.
Whoa.
All right, guys. We'll see you on the next one.